Hello, my name's Raj. If you're new here, I'm an artist and illustrator sharing my creative process over on Substack and also on YouTube. Part of my creative process is to have a space where I can experiment across multiple subjects, across multiple media, and treat it in a way which is really light and really playful and doesn't really have any specific project focus in mind. And for that, I have isolated specific sketchbooks. What I'm showing you here is my Pith Pomelo sketchbooks. I'm now into filling multiples of these, and the way that I've really found that they work for me is by using them to just go a little bit experimental and wild. And often I will use them for taking notes. I'll use them for sketching from reference images and all sorts. Currently, my favorite medium of the moment is this Art Graf. It's a little graphite water-soluble tin, as you can see, that is really portable, easy to carry everywhere. And it's just become my new favorite medium as of these last 2 weeks. And it's one of those funny things that just happens, that sometimes you can fall in love with a medium that's been sitting in your drawer for years or more. And I think this is one of those. I had purchased this Art Graf probably about 3 years ago, and I had played with it in an old art creation sketchbook, and I didn't really get on with it. I wasn't really finding my connection to this medium. And that's something that I try to pay attention to as much as possible, really, that in order for us to be experimental with the way that we work and to discover a visual voice, I think that it's really important to be able to connect to whichever mediums that we're attracted to in that time and really try to understand what the specific voice of that medium is. And what I found in rediscovering the Art Graf is that it's got this beautiful textural quality that has a little bit of grain in there. I can treat it like I would a fat marker or a pen, and I treat it almost as another tool for drawing with. My personal preference in drawing is really to focus on line. And although I'm using a brush here, I like to think about the way that I use line in terms of the weight I'm applying to the brush, in terms of the thicks and the thins. And I find that the Art Graf is just doing a really nice job of giving me variety, both in tone, texture, and line. So what you're seeing here is a series of portraits that I'm drawing. I'm practicing faces. It's a passionate subject area of mine. And in this instance, I'm just taking some reference images from Pinterest, reference images of South Asian actresses or models, and just picking an image that I'm drawn to and exploring how I may want to interpret those faces in my own way, in my own style. And in this instance, I'm finding that the Art Graf is just a really beautiful, textural, sensitive medium, and I seem to be able to work with it in a very bold, very loose way. But I also find that I can work with it in a very delicate and sensitive way. So here, I'm working with pattern. I'm trying to think about the textures that might be appearing on the fabric. But I noticed that I like to just focus the eye on the face as much as possible. So yeah, I hope you are enjoying the time lapse of me working. And I'm curious, what do you find to be your strength when you're working with your favorite materials. For me, I want to work fast. I don't want to have to think. I find that layering different mediums and materials on top of one another is something which I admire hugely in the work of other artists, but I sometimes find is a barrier to working quickly and to getting something down in a way that has expression and has character, personality, sensitivity. There's so much that line can do. An example here, I've moved on from the younger reference material and I'm now working with an image of a much older woman. And that's always changes the way that I might work in terms of my speed. I find that here I've slowed down quite a bit and I'm conscious of trying to pay attention to the bone structure so that the positioning of all of the facial elements are actually making sense. And although the end result may not be a perfect rendition of the woman, I feel as though it's done something really lovely with the focal point of the eyes being quite strong and then softening up with that dry brush for the hair, which almost takes it into a sort of out of focus effect. I like to take time out of my day just to sit down at my desk and draw, fill some pages, work with one material, not think too much about it, and allow myself to just focus on the feeling of the line. So that's what I decided to do in this session here, and I hope it's an interesting insight into the way that I work. Where will I take this? Well, I think I will take this to a series of works that perhaps will just allow me to interpret people in front of me, perhaps to live events, perhaps to parties with friends, and see if I can translate some of what I'm learning from these quick exercises into in-person events. That would be such a fun thing to do. And here we are. I love this really strong, rich graphic line combined with some of that more granular texture that comes through the brush. I'm always loving how much one thick line can communicate. And again in here with the hair, the texture from the brush just describes the hair so well. I'm in love with Art Graf, and I never thought I'd say that. Let me know if there's a material that you've abandoned and rediscovered. I would love to know. Thanks so much for watching.